What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Uber Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, two-time junior middleweight world champion, who currently is the unified junior middleweight world champion superstar boxer, Jermell Lions Only Charlo, who is 34 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 18 wins by way of knockout. He is 31 years of age, 5'11", with a 73-inch arm reach. It's official now. He will be having a rescheduled date of his highly anticipated undisputed rematch with undefeated WBO junior middleweight world champion Australian star boxer, Argentinian star boxer in Brian Castano. Brian Castano is 17 wins, no losses, 2 draws, 12 wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'7.5", with a 67.5-inch arm reach. Okay, the first fight took place in an undisputed match that was back in October of 2021, in which, July of 2021, in which the fight ended in a draw. Okay, so with that said, we didn't get a chance to get crowned undisputed champion junior middleweight, and the fight was rescheduled to take place, the rematch, March 19th of this year. Okay, so in 2 weeks it was supposed to have the rematch between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano for undisputed, but Brian Castano reportedly suffered a injury to his right bicep and had to pull out the fight. Well, Jermell Charlo, he wasn't happy. Jermell Charlo, he took to social media and he made claims that he felt Brian Castano was actually faking the injury, and that he needed to show, and he should show, proof of a doctor's report that he did suffer the injury. And he also felt like Brian Castano was avoiding taking Olympic style testing, okay, to make sure and prove that he was a clean boxer. So now we have gotten news that the fight has officially been rescheduled for May 14th, okay, with the location still to be determined. Okay, so now May 14th, the fight is rescheduled. It's supposed to take place in California, the first fight. So now we have to see, more than likely it'll still be in the same location, but now it has been rescheduled for May 14th. And Jermell Charlo, he's responded and he stated, "No more excuses. Those belts is coming home with me. You prolonging this fight didn't stop anything. I'm still going to achieve my childhood dream of what I set out to do years ago, and that's become undisputed, create history." If the fight had took place this month, March 19th, we would have been assured undisputed champion, the 7th undisputed champion, unless obviously, it ended in a draw again. But if it ended in victory, we'll have the 7th undisputed champion in history of sport of boxing to hold all 4 major sanction belts. We have 6 already. Number 1 was Bernard Hopkins to do it. Number 2 was Jermaine Taylor, who beat Bernard Hopkins to do it. Number 3 was Terrence Crawford at junior middleweight. Number 4 was Oleksandr Usyk at cruiserweight. Number 5 was Josh Taylor at junior welterweight again. And at number 6, most recently, in November, we had Canelo Alvarez do so at super middleweight. And he's currently still the super middleweight undisputed champion. Josh Taylor is still currently the undisputed junior welterweight world champion. Now, he just defended the titles, and it could have been the 7th undisputed champion, because he's defended his titles against his WBO mandatory and Jack Catterall. Many people, including myself, felt Jack Catterall should have gotten a nod in that victory. Okay, but he didn't. So with that said, Josh Taylor successfully defended his undisputed titles, and now in March 19th, we would have got an official undisputed champion, which would be the 7th champion. But in May, it still can be the 7th undisputed champion, because there's no more undisputed fights taking place in the heavyweight division. You could have had Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk. That would have been for undisputed, but Tyson Fury is going to face off against his WBC mandatory challenger and fellow countryman Dillian White. Oleksandr Usyk, we know what he's dealing with defending the Ukraine, so he's back home. He was supposed to go in April and defend his titles in a rematch against 2-time unified heavyweight world champion British superstar boxer Anthony Joshua, but now obviously that has been put on hold. So with that said, this is the rematch, the highly anticipated rematch. So in May, it looks like May 14th, we're going to get a 7th undisputed champion in the history of the sport of boxing between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. And I personally think it's going to be Jermell Charlo. I think that Jermell Charlo will use his size. He will use his boxing skills. He will use his athletic ability, his ring IQ. He'll stay off the ropes this time. He'll make the adjustments, and I believe he'll win this fight. Brian Castano, I believe we saw the best version of Brian Castano in his last fight against Jermell Charlo. Okay, I think that he gave everything he had. I don't believe that we could see a better version of Brian Castano. Brian Castano's at a huge size disadvantage. Okay, he stands at 5'7", and Jermell Charlo stands at nearly 6 feet tall. So Jermell Charlo has nearly a 4-inch height advantage over Brian Castano. He also has a 67-inch arm reach. That's the same arm reach of Gervonta Tank Davis and Manny Pacquiao. Okay, and Jermell Charlo has an arm reach of nearly 74-inch arm. So he has almost a 6.5 to 7-inch arm reach advantage over Brian Castano. He's just a better athlete in the ring. Brian Castano is very aggressive. Brian Castano throws punches in a very unorthodox angles. Okay, he uses his angles. He uses his aggression. He uses his size to his advantage. He gets up underneath his opponent's punches, up underneath their jab, and he gets into their chest, and he throws these unorthodox punches. Okay, these funny angle punches. Okay, like a lot like his fellow countryman and former world champion in Marcos El Chino Maidana. Okay, they're very aggressive. They throw weird punches from weird angles. Also Sergio Martinez. Okay, their style and their approach is very unorthodox, and it's very difficult to gauge. The distance is very difficult to gauge the trajectory on their punches and the angles of their punches. That's the reason why Marcos Maidana, he beat Adrian Broner. He gave Floyd Mayweather a tough fight in the first fight, and because of the way their approach to the sport and their style. And so that's the same thing that happened with Jermell Charlo. He allowed himself to be backed up to the ropes, and that's where Brian Castano is going to have the advantage. In the center of the ring, it was abundantly clear who the better fighter was, who the better athlete was, who was sharper. Okay, but there was a few times where Jermell Charlo seemed to be on the verge of stopping Brian Castano, but then he would allow himself to be backed up into the ropes. He would allow Brian Castano to have the success, to put Jermell Charlo in a position to have the success that he needs to have. Okay, Jermell Charlo has a very high ring IQ, very tight defense, and he has a great jab, and he's a good counterpuncher. But the angles that Brian Castano throws his punches when you're on the ropes allows him to have success, because a few times you could look at the fight, Jermell Charlo, he leaned into Brian Castano punches because you trying to get away from his punches as you would in a normal fighter. Okay, and you would lean or slip or dodge in a certain way, and that would get away from it. But the way Brian Castano throws his punches, Jermell Charlo actually was leaning into his punches. That's the reason why he was getting caught on the ropes. He was trying to parry a lot of punches. He was trying to slip punches while he was on the ropes. But again, the angles, the unorthodox angles, the weird angles he uses, he's catching Jermell Charlo cleanly, and he has respectable power. So with that said, I think that in this situation, in a rematch, I think that Jermell Charlo is going to keep the fight in the center of the ring. I believe that Jermell Charlo would have pivoted in the center of the ring when Brian Castano was being aggressive and pressing the fight and charging him to get him on the ropes. If Jermell Charlo would have pivoted back into the center of the ring, because he's the bigger, stronger, better athlete, okay, and he's more rangy, so he can feel and sense when Brian Castano is starting to press the fight, and feel when his back is against the ropes, when his legs against the ropes, and use your jab to occupy Brian Castano, freeze him if he's coming too fast, and then pivot back into the center of the ring and force him to restart and use a lot of energy trying to work his way on the inside and counter him, because Jermell Charlo is the much better athlete, okay, and he's the bigger, stronger athlete, okay, and so he used his ring IQ. He's a sharper boxer. So use your jab to keep Brian Castano at bay. Use your footwork to pivot and turn him. It looked like Brian Castano had better footwork because of the way he was able to maneuver and strategically get Jermell Charlo to back himself, to get himself momentum back and going backwards, and Brian Castano could then use his aggression to continue and his momentum against him and let Jermell Charlo find himself on the ropes or in the corner, and that's when Brian Castano can have his success. I don't believe Jermell Charlo will allow that. He stated that he watched video, he watched film, he understands what he did wrong, and I believe he'll make the adjustment. So let's see. The fight has officially been made May 14th. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue. Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV. All one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share the videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.